For over 1,000 years, North Americans have described a mysterious phenomenon that eludes conventional explanations. Pictographs made by the ancestors of the Yokut people in central California depict a family group of 3 hairy people among the known fauna of their homeland. Elders of the tribe, living in the Tool River Reservation, have passed down an oral tradition that describes the hairy man as living in the caves in the high mountains. It is said that the hairy men diverged from humankind in prehistoric times, abandoning the use of fire so that people could not track them in the wilderness. According to legend, the hairy men would sometimes steal from the Yokut fish traps and food stores. It was claimed that in the past, when the hunters left to track game, the hairy men would sneak into the village and carry away human children. The Yokut believed that the hairy men once preyed upon and ate humans, but suggest that they have abandoned the practice for various reasons. Along the New England coastline, across the Adirondacks and around the Great Lakes, the Algonquin people also lived in fear of a semi-human man-eater stalking their forests. The Wendigo was described as a malevolent spirit that would possess human beings and overpower them with cannibalistic cravings. Sadly, the unsympathetic attempts at assimilation by European colonists left us a fractured and incomplete history of the cultural heritage of the eastern tribes. Some say that the Wendigo was merely a cautionary tale used to enforce taboos against cannibalism, but the belief that people could literally transform into Wendigo persisted into the 20th century. In 1906, Royal Northwest Mounted Police constables in northern Ontario arrested the Ojibwa shaman and tribal leader Zawunogiji-Go-Gobao, then believed to be about 70 years old. Known to Hudson Bay Company traders by the xenonym Jack Fiddler, he was a high-ranking member of the Sucker branch of the Fish Clan, making him an important custodian of the philosophies and traditions of his tribe. According to court records and newspaper reports, Jack Fiddler was also a famous Wendigo hunter who had been called upon to euthanize 14 individuals afflicted with the cannibalistic malhukia. Jack Fiddler and his brother Joseph were charged with murder by the police superintendents eager to impose Canadian law and Christian values on the isolated Anishinaabe tribes. After 15 weeks in captivity under a foreign legal system, Jack Fiddler managed to escape from his guards and decided to hang himself in a nearby forest. His brother Joseph was convicted of murder and sentenced to death, but died in prison awaiting appeal. Thus, the last known Wendigo hunters quietly took a lifetime of occult knowledge to their graves. While RCMP Commissioner Aylesworth Perry may have dismissed the Wendigo as a pagan belief in 1909, earlier colonists seem to have believed in the veracity of such legends. Descriptions of the Wendigo are very different from those of the hairy men. However, the transformation of human into Wendigo through cannibalism is consistent with the legendary origins of the hairy men. The recurring assertion that these creatures are more than human, or more human than ape, is significant. Among educated Europeans during the 18th and 19th centuries, belief in the existence of creatures like the hairy man was not uncommon. Jonathan Swift described the Yahoos as an unsophisticated race of hairy humanoids in his satirical 1726 novel Gulliver's Travels. The father of modern taxonomy, Carl Linnaeus, included the Homo troglodytes in his 1735 edition of Systema Naturae, along with 3 similar half-man, half-ape species. The American frontiersman Daniel Boone probably never read Systema Naturae, But it is known that Gulliver's Travels was his second favorite book after the Bible. Boone claimed to have encountered 10-foot-tall yahoos in the Kentucky wilderness, although his reputation as a raconteur makes it difficult to verify the details of his accounts. Appalachian folklorists have suggested that the campfire tale of the Yeehaw may have been born from Boone's love of Swift's popular novel. The tale of the Yeehaw involves a young hunter who seeks shelter in a cave and is taken prisoner by a large hairy woman living therein. The Yeehaw hunts and shares her kill with the man, who shows her how to make fire and cook the meat. The two live together and have one or more children. It is interesting to note attributes and behaviors passed down in this folk tale told by European settlers in Appalachia overlap with the tales told by Native Americans all the way across the continental divide in California. Thomas S. Savage, a Yale-educated clergyman, physician, and naturalist serving as a missionary in the then-new Afro-American colony of Liberia, first confirmed the existence of the mountain gorilla in 1847. The name was taken from the description of the gigantic West African hairy man recorded by Carthaginian explorer Hanno the Navigator, regarded as legendary monsters for the preceding 2,300 years. Before the end of the century, reports of gorilla-like creatures in the mountains of North America began to emerge. In 1884, a newspaper in British Columbia reported that railway workers near the town of Yale had captured a young male gorilla, named him Jacko, and securely locked him in the town jail. Two competing newspapers reported on Jacko, refuted the Daily Colonist story as a hoax, but this represents an archetypal account of these creatures embarrassing those who have claimed to have caught them by mysteriously escaping captivity. In 1957, a 64-year-old British Columbian woodsman named Albert Ostman came forward to report that he had been abducted by an 8-foot-tall ape man in 1924. Ostman claimed that he was carried away in his sleeping bag to a remote valley where he was held captive by a small family of large hairy people. He stated that they were neither threatening nor would they allow him to leave, feeding him and relating to him with ape-like curiosity. After 6 days, he tricked the alpha male into eating snuff, and the tobacco put his captor into a stupor long enough for Ostman to make good his escape. A tough, hard-working man, Ostman kept his experience a secret for over 3 decades out of concern for his reputation. After deciding to share his story with journalists and original Bigfoot investigator John Green, Mr. Ostman went so far as to sign a solemn declaration under oath affirming the truth of his account. The affidavit from the RCMP magistrate who took Ostman's testimony confirms his character and integrity, making him a model of the most credible witnesses to the elusive phenomenon.